Today's my first day back from paternity leave. It's my first day back after 2 months of spending wonderful time with my baby girl and my wife, who are upstairs. So that's one great perk from working from home. I got a lot of stuff to do today, loads of stuff. I've been on emails for the past couple of months, but I've not taken any phone calls, so I have a bunch of phone calls to do this morning. But before all that, I want to talk about Spider-Man, because the window on talking about Spider-Man is just about to shut, because I feel like we're almost entering Red Dead world now. There are already like 1 million reviews out there for Spider-Man, so I don't want to labor on the gameplay details and yada and yada and yada. But I have a pretty good idea of why that game works and the ways in which it doesn't work and sort of doesn't get in the way of itself when it doesn't work. The reason I had so much fun with Spider-Man, and maybe the reason you had so much fun with Spider-Man, is because it's effectively a Tony Hawk's Pro Skater game. I'm talking Tony Hawk's 1, 2, and 3. It's definitely not 4. In fact, 4 kind of proves this whole concept. So to show you how this works, I'm gonna have to plug this guy in. I fucked up. Gotta turn the guy. There we go. I really need a PlayStation 1, but this thing does backwards compatible. Remember when consoles did backwards compatible? Alright, first off the bat, I'm not a huge Spider-Man fan. I'm not a huge Marvel fan or kind of comic book heroes in general person. And also when it comes to Insomniac games, I've been kind of hit or miss. There've been some I've really, really enjoyed, and some that have been sort of like fine. And one of the ones that I've actually enjoyed probably more than any of their games, maybe ever, is the sort of often maligned Xbox One exclusive Sunset Overdrive. For me, this game had a lot of very clever ideas, but sort of got in its own way a lot of the time. Like the upgrade tree was kind of a little bit too much. The explaining of how the world works was a little bit too much. The story got in its way. And then the other problem was that the combat in the game and the traversal never meshed the way they sort of wanted to. And it almost clicked perfect. You could tell it was, most of the way there. But every once in a while you'd find yourself just stuck with nothing to grind or jump on, or you'd hit these cul-de-sacs and the flow sort of broke. And for a game like that, I think that's a bit of a death sentence. So for me, Spider-Man 2016, or what is it? Marvel Spider-Man, whatever this thing's called. Not only did it sort of amp up all the stuff that was really good about Sunset Overdrive in terms of the traversal, but it also fixed a lot of the issues that Sunset Overdrive had that got in its way. The loop of Spider-Man is super, super simple. You're traversing this world, you're zipping around, you're enjoying the flow of going through the skyscrapers, webbing, all that stuff is great fun. There's a main quest, you're hitting the story beats, but outside of the main quest, the map is littered with a lot of I wouldn't even call them side quests, I'd call them, bonus activities that are sort of grouped into various different clusters, but effectively most of them are go to a place, complete something very quickly, and then go and do the next one. At the start, you're collecting backpacks. It's very reminiscent of Crackdown. You're chasing after pigeons. You're doing these kind of Arkham-like fight sequences where you're either trying to stealth your way through a mission, the Taskmaster ones, I really enjoy those, or clearing out a base. Then there's these random encounters that happen, which are relatively short. You're either stopping a car that's driving away from the cops, or getting a bunch of folks who are having a shootout in the middle of the street to calm the hell down. All this sort of stuff. It's like busy work. None of these things take all that much time. So you end up either, clearing out sections of the map just that way, or you're like, I'm just gonna do all the backpacks now. In fact, that's exactly what I did. Right at the start, I just collected all of the backpacks and did the, what's her name? Catwoman? Spider-Man Catwoman? Cat Lady? Spider Cat? I don't know what her name is. Black Cat. Way to go, Stan Lee. Keep those fresh ideas. Was Catwoman before Black Cat? I don't know. If you're a comic book person, tell me in the comments, nerds. And there is the main quest, and it has probably a story that's better than it needed to be. It's really well acted. The voice acting is terrific. The animation and the direction, all that stuff is like really, really crisp and well done. But effectively, at the end of the day, this is a game where you're just webbing around New York doing chores, which is why, as far as I'm concerned, this is a Tony Hawk game. Okay, let's talk about the nature of what a Tony Hawk game is, right? If you take the timer out of the equation, then effectively all you're doing is bouncing around these levels, sort of enjoying yourself, and then ticking off a shopping list. The stuff on the shopping list is relatively benign. You're collecting letters, you're getting high scores, you're doing stuff like, you know, knocking over barrels or ollieing over bums or whatever. It's busy work. None of this stuff is like that entertaining in its own right, but just the sheer flow of going around the level, doing your tricks and getting a high score and ticking off all this stuff is satisfying. It's satisfying in the way that ticking off a shopping list in real life is satisfying. There's something just about getting the shit done or collecting stuff or completing stuff that's inherently fun in its own right. In fact, the most fun I've ever had with Tony Hawk is going into one of these levels fresh and trying to collect as much of it as possible. Like, I remember doing this first hangar level 1,000 times. The fact that it was that much fun to just keep repeating it over and over again, even though effectively all you were doing was just a bunch of random busy work, was a testament to how fun just the core nature of the game was. Even without the list, this was a game that you could just enjoy. Like, I play Free Skate for hours and just bounce around the levels. And the same thing happened years later when Skate came out. When Skate came out, all I do was, you know, put on whatever music I had on the Xbox app and skate around and, you know, skateboard in ways that I definitely couldn't ever do in real life. I think I topped out at varial heel flip. And here's the thing, right? These games didn't suffer from this at all. They didn't need to have complex goals or crazy mission structures. The act of playing the game was just inherently fun in its own right. In fact, it was only when these games started to introduce complex mission structures that the whole thing fell apart. In Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 4, and especially in the Thug series, they started to introduce all these wacky missions and modes and vehicles, and it just got in the way of what made the game fun in the first place. The flow, just jumping around on a skateboard, grinding on stuff, exploring the levels and ticking off the shopping list. Sunset Overdrive had a bit of a problem with this too. The actual traversal in this game was fantastic, but there was just so much happening all the time to break you out of it. All I wanted to do in this game was just, you know, play Jet Set Radio. Spider-Man, on the other hand, does not get in the way of what's fun about it. What's fun about Spider-Man? The traversal, the flow. Just like Tony Hawk's, it's just simply exploring that world and ticking off your shopping list. And just like the Tony Hawk games, the stuff on your shopping list isn't all that complex. It doesn't need to be. In fact, it's better that it's simple. Catching a pigeon takes, hopefully, you know, under 30 seconds. You know, stopping one of these runaway cars, tap, tap, tap on the square button, it's done in like 20 seconds. Even the combat stuff, you know, clearing out one of those prisoner areas, like how long is that whole section taking? Like maybe 2 or 3 minutes? Compare that to the Arkham games. I really like the Arkham games, but some of those combat encounters, I mean, it was a different beast. They were longer, they took a lot more intention, they had a lot more tools and all that sort of stuff. If Spider-Man had done that, if it had gone to that level of depth, it would have been to the detriment of the game. You would have been like, I just want to swing around some friggin' buildings again. The perfect example of this is the Spider Cat woman, what's her name? Black Cat, God. The Black Cat levels. The Black Cat levels have been designed so that you don't have to deal with them. Effectively, they are hidden item mini games. You have to find a tiny black cat using a telescope in a certain part of the city. It's not interesting. There's nothing interesting about that premise. And the game knows that. So not only do they telegraph whereabout it's gonna be, first of all, it's always near an open door or window. Then they put like these graffiti motifs of Black Cat all around the area where it is. And then if that wasn't easy enough to find it, the controller vibrates when you get anywhere close to it. So you just cover, it's like a point and click adventure game. You just get your cursor on every single area of the screen, eventually the thing vibrates and you find it. But you don't care, because you're not there to do the interesting game. You're there to tick it off your shopping list because you're trying to get all those Black Cat things off your map. Or you're trying to unlock a certain suit you'll get at the end of it, or you're trying to collect enough, you know, research points or unlock points so you can get a neat piece of kit that you saw on the inventory screen. But what you're not doing is getting excited about finding tiny cats around the levels, just like you're not getting excited about finding backpacks. It's all just busy work, and that's fine. The average mission level in this game, including the main quests, just feels shorter than most games. The boss fights don't feel difficult, but it doesn't matter because the dialogue's good and the camera work is incredible during those fights. And that's the entire game. It's just doing these little interesting things and jumping around in between. Spider-Man doesn't get in its way. It doesn't try and turn any one of these elements into a bigger, grander thing. Spider-Man gets out. Spider-Man is like, okay, you've had fun, good. We've hit the 80-20 rule here. We're gonna pull you out and go do something else. Spider-Man doesn't have emergent gameplay moments or the most incredible RPG mechanics or the most believable open world we've ever seen. But what it does have is a fantastic traversal system that it doesn't get in the way of. The perfect game to play, whether it be 2 in the morning and your eyes are falling out of your head from minding a newborn baby, or 2 in the afternoon when your eyes are falling out of your head from minding a newborn baby. If the idea of a Spider-Man related New York traversal collect 'em up, it sounds fun to you, or you just really want a Tony Hawk or skate game, maybe go check it out.